Hi folks. Today I thought I'd talk to you briefly about the Scots author who actually composed the lyrics that were used for the famous Outlander theme song. Now this young man tragically passed away in 1894 at the relatively tender age of only 44. And yet in his short lifetime he had become celebrated worldwide as an author and a poet, and as I said, he composed this poem that was later used for the award-winning Outlander theme tune. So if you've ever enjoyed the book as I did, Treasure Island, which was a great book that I read when I was a youngster, really enjoyed it, then you've read one of this young man's best known books. So of course he was Robert Louis Stevenson. So Stevenson was born in Edinburgh in 1850. He was born at a house 8 Howard Place. Now for those of you who know Edinburgh, it's near to the Royal Botanic Gardens, so it's just slightly off the new town of Edinburgh, again if you would know the new town of Edinburgh, and you can still see the house today. It has a plaque outside it. Now Stevenson suffered from severe lung problems for most of his life. Originally it was thought to be tuberculosis, but it's now not thought to be that it was some other form of bronchial problems, but he really suffered all of his life. And as a child, he was often confined to his bedroom, and it certainly disrupted his academic life. But he read widely, about travel and adventure, and I think this inspired him in a way. And despite of this continuing health problems, and they were serious. I mean, he at times was pretty near death's door. He continued to travel widely throughout his life and wrote prolifically. So really quite an amazing man. An interesting aspect I thought was that Stevenson, this was something I didn't really know until quite recently, Stevenson actually wrote much of the novel Treasure Island whilst he was staying in a cottage in Braemar, which is based up on Royal Deeside in the Highlands of Scotland. A lovely little town, Braemar, and quite well known. The Braemar Gathering is held there every year, which you may have heard of. So how that came about was that in 1881, in an attempt to improve his health, he decided to escape to the countryside, and to try and take advantage of the clean, fresh air. And he and his wife rented a cottage in this lovely village of Braemar, which is famed for its stunning scenery. But unfortunately, it just shows you how history is made. Unfortunately, and this can be the case in Scotland, folks. If you've been to Scotland, you'll be aware of it. If you haven't, I just need to let you know. That summer turned out to be what we would call a particularly dreich one. So dreich is a word that means it's wet, the mist down, just miserable. Dreich is a good Scots word for dreich. So that summer turned out to be like that, and there Stevenson was, confined to this rented home in Braemar. So what happened was he very quickly wrote the first 16 chapters of Treasure Island whilst he was there. So there's this wonderful tale of swashbuckling pirates and buried gold, and it became a favourite novel worldwide, and is widely read all around the world. Very interestingly, I thought, is that there's some thought that some of the characters in Treasure Island were based on people who actually lived in Braemar at that time. The 1881 census of Braemar showed that there was a family named Silver living in the village, and the head of the family was a miller, a man who was a miller, and his name was John Silver. So who knows, perhaps he was the inspiration. It's not recorded whether Mr. Silver the miller had one leg or not. I don't think so, but anyway, perhaps he was the inspiration for the one-legged pirate Long John Silver. So I thought that was quite interesting. Actually, and as a side, apparently, I haven't done this, but apparently the cottage where Stevenson stayed in Braemar, I think it may be a cottage that you can rent, for holidays. And apparently the owners now have called it Treasure Island Cottage. So there you go. If you ever wanted to stay in the cottage where Stevenson wrote Treasure Island, there you go, you could perhaps do that. However, coming back to the main story, how this came about that Stevenson wrote the poem was that the original lyrics for the tune that's used are called the Sky Boat Song, and this was very much a Jacobite invention after Culloden and things like that. And to be honest, Stevenson was unimpressed with the quality, I think, of the lyrics rather than anything else. So he decided he'd write a new poem. And it was this poem that was used over 100 years later as the lyrics for as I said, for the award-winning Outlander theme song. And then all they did was change one word. So in other words, in the poem that Stevenson wrote, he talks about "Sing me a song of a lad that is gone," and for Outlander, what they did was they changed that to "lass." Sing me a song of a lass that is gone. Anyway, I thought I'd let you hear it being sung. I'm just going to show you a little video clip here of a video I took of a lovely young Scots lassie called Holly, and she very kindly sang this version of the song for me. So I'm just going to let you see it now, and you'll hear the entire poem as written by Robert Louis Stevenson.
Sing me a song of a lad that is gone, say could that lad be I? Merry of soul, he sailed on a day over the sea to sky. Mull was astern, rum on the port, egg on the starboard bow. Glory of youth, glorious soul, where is that glory now? Sing me a song of a lad that is gone, say could that lad be I? Merry of soul, he sailed on a day over the sea to sky. Give me again all that was then, give me the sun that shone, give me the eyes, give me the soul, give me the lad that's gone. Sing me a song of a lad that is gone, say could that lad be I? Merry of soul, he sailed on a day over the sea to sky. Billow and breeze, islands and seas, mountains of rain and sun. All that was good, all that was fair, all that was meet
that's the actual poem that Stevenson wrote, and I think personally, I think it is a lovely. I prefer that version to the original Skyboat song. Again, I think it's a much better composed poem. However, Stevenson is best known for his novels, although, as I said, he did write lots of poetry. So as well as Treasure Island, you know, he's very well known for The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which many of you may know has been made into many numbers of films. Also Kidnapped, quite a famous novel, and also has been made into films. And The Master of Ballantrae. Those ones are probably his best known ones, but he was a prolific writer. And he wrote many novels and short stories and poems. And he's ranked the 26th most translated author in the world. You know, so his novels certainly have gone far and wide, much beyond the shores of Scotland. At the Writers' Museum in Edinburgh, many visitors. This is a museum that celebrates Scotland's famous authors. Many visitors come because of Robert Louis Stevenson and want to see and learn more about him and his life. However, with his health continuing to deteriorate, Stevenson eventually moved to live on the island of Samoa in the Pacific, where they thought the dry climate would help him. Just as an aside here, he obviously suffered from the damp climate of Scotland, and that's why he continually sort of moved around and tried to find a climate that would be better for his lungs. And anyway, he after trying many different things, places, he eventually settled in Samoa, which he loved, and also he lived there for 4 years, and the locals adored him, and I'm not going to say worshipped him, but absolutely he was very highly thought of on the island. They called him Tusitala, which is Samoan for teller of tales. And whilst he was there, he wrote many things, articles, highlighting short stories, highlighting the plight of the Samoans and trying to get them help, and writing letters and such like, and trying to raise the profile so that people would help the Samoans. Sadly, however, you know, after the 4 years there, he passed away in 1894, and when he died, the locals carried his coffin on their shoulders to the nearby mountain of Vaea, I think it's pronounced, where they buried him overlooking the sea. And you can go and see his tomb to this day. Stevenson had already written his own epitaph, and this is inscribed on his tomb. And he says, "Under the wide and starry sky, dig the grave and let me die. Let me lie. Glad did I live and gladly die, and I laid me down with a will. This be the verse you graved for me. Here he lies where he longed to be. Home is the sailor, home from the sea, and the hunter home from the hill." So I thought that was a very fitting epitaph to this famous Scots author who gave us so many fine words. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this, another little historical insight into Scotland. And if you do, of course, if you would like to like it or comment on it, then that would be great. Until we see again, I just want to wish you all the very best from Scotland.